Welcome back, my computer duders. Last time we talked about movements that we don't necessarily fully agree with, but we think they have a good point, or good points. I'm, for the most part, a anti-religious person, but just to challenge myself, I want to try to say only nice things about whatever religions I can find good things about. You won't hear many good things about Scientology, obviously. That's a farce and a cult. A lot of these religions descend from cults, but that one still is very recognizably a cult. And I'm probably going to only have bad things to say about that. But what about Buddhism? I think there's a lot to be said for the idea that you can solve a lot of your problems just by eliminating desire. Because if your problem is that you want something but can't have it, one of the solutions is to stop wanting it. And that's kind of an anticlimactic and unfulfilling solution. And it doesn't work for everything. Like you can't solve starvation by deciding that you no longer want food, right? But if your suffering comes from the fact that you live in poverty and you see all this cool shit that you badly want and it hurts that you can't have it, one solution is to condition yourself to no longer want that stuff. There's something to be said for that. However, I don't think you should go too far in that direction, because if you do, and you just don't want anything anymore, then why even live? Why be alive? Like, a lot of the things that we identify as vices, like greed and jealousy and shit like that, are the basic drives that create motivation and meaning in our lives. Like Minecraft. Like, you need to want something. If you didn't care about building anything and you didn't have any cool ideas you wanted to see implemented, you wouldn't do anything in Minecraft. You would just eat the bare minimum you need to survive. Make a shelter only as large as necessary not to get killed by monsters, and then you'd just do that every day. You just farm more food and eat it. And that would be all you ever did. Being greedy made me build all this shit. I wanted a fucking giant, cool underwater base. I don't care that I don't need it. So I think a lot of the stuff that gets maligned by Buddhism is not necessarily bad. It's only bad if you're in a situation where you absolutely can't move in that direction or can't aspire to those things, and so it only causes you suffering to think about it. Like Christianity, it's mostly a religion for the suffering. It appeals mostly to people in bad situations who want to mentally improve their situation. I won't have a lot good to say about Christianity or Islam or Mormonism as well, because they're virally structured. They're designed in such a way as to motivate people to spread them and to be hostile, violently sometimes, towards anybody who tries to help them see that they've been fooled. I don't like that about it. Like, believe in me and believe I'm the Son of God, and you'll receive a punishment, or I mean a reward. But I can't prove to you that what the reward is after you die. And if you don't believe in me, you get a punishment that I also conveniently can't prove. And anybody who says I'm not the Son of God or shows you evidence contrary to my teachings is sent by an invisible trickster named Satan, who I can't prove to you exists, but he's behind anything contrary to what I've said. So just don't believe that and assume anything that looks like evidence against my teachings is satanic lies. Don't lean on your own critical thinking. Instead, just trust what you've read here and believe my teachings without thinking about it. It's very obviously designed to fool people and to keep them fooled. So I don't like that about it. I guess if I have to say something nice about it, it's that the root word of culture is cult. So you need some kind of glue to stick people together and get them to stick as a community. And historically, that has often been cults, and religions descended from them, hence cult and culture. And maybe there's no other way to do that. Like there are cultures today, like in Scandinavia, that are very atheistic, and they still seem to do all right. But you could argue that they couldn't have gotten to that point without first being, bound together by shared beliefs and an investment in one another and in perpetuating that belief system. So I guess if you have a bunch of scared, hairy, naked, primitive proto-humans, and you have to find a way to make them cooperate and to be selfless and to work for the greater good of the community, fooling them into doing that is not the worst crime in the world. I'm not totally convinced that's even effective at making people better behaved, though. But I'm not sure how you would even test that. I mean, for example, almost everybody in prison is religious. There's almost no atheists. And you're like, oh, well, they become religious in prison to get shorter sentences. Ignoring the fact that that's this huge fucking problem, that the religious control the prison system and that they coerce conversion in order to get out of prison sooner. A lot of these figures were actually collected before the person was incarcerated. So unless they changed their religion while they were in court, that's not an explanation for what's happening. I think a better explanation is that they're just dumb and poor, and dumb and poor people are often very intensely religious because it offers them a refuge. It offers them relief from their lives. It tells them that if they're behaved well, that there's a better life waiting for them after this one. That's a very sexy, enticing message if you're in that situation and there's no hope of improving anything while you're alive. I haven't been outside to really explore any of this shit because I built most of this before I even had the respiration helmet. So I couldn't see shit. I was working in pitch blackness. And I was working with doors and buckets as a breathing mechanism, so I didn't have a lot of time to look around. Maybe I should fucking explore the seabed as a break from all the Nether monotony. Do I have a bucket? I don't, so I really need to keep an eye on... I need to stay near a moon pool, basically. Here's this totally unused habitat space that I don't even know what's for. I really fucking... Oh, what are you doing here, Father? Why are Catholic priests called Father when it says explicitly in the Bible, call no man on earth Father, for your Father's in heaven? Although, ignoring, of course, that's extremely fucking creepy and cultish to say that your family is not your family, I'm your family now. That's what they do. They say, you have to love me more than you love your family, otherwise you're not worthy of me. And Jesus literally said that. How they don't realize how culty that is fucking a mystery to me. And they have the dumbest defenses. Like, they'll say, okay, all right, Jesus did a lot of things that cult leaders do. He said the world was ending. He said he could save you from it. He said to be his follower, you had to sell your belongings. He said that you had to love him more than your family and leave your job and home to follow him. But what about the miracles? Like, I would say he was a cult leader, except he did all those miracles. And I'm like, are you dumb? What about Joseph Smith's miracles from the Book of Mormon? And they just look at you like you're the retard. Like, oh, obviously, those are made up. Mormons just made up those miracles so people would believe in Mormonism. I'm like, listen to yourself. Take everything you just said and say it about the Bible and Jesus instead of the Book of Mormon and Christianity. Like, oh, that's totally different. Because the Book of Mormon is just a copy and paste of the Bible. It's just a fan fiction. And like, well, that's what Jews say about the Bible with respect to the Torah. They can't see they're in the same fucking... I promised I would say nice things, though. I guess a lot of the teachings are... I have met some people who sincerely live by Christ's teachings, and they were really, really cool people that I would like there to be more of. Fred Rogers was a Christian. He was probably one of the best humans. So is Bob Ross. But then he also went through some serious brutality in I think, Vietnam. which made him a gentler person. That's why he went into painting. He never wanted to see any violence again, and he decided life was not about violence. It was about gentleness and beauty. And it's going to create gentle little happy clouds and bring beauty into people's lives and teach them to create beauty, which is fucking beautiful, man. It makes me want to cry, except I have a VR headset on, so I have to suppress my emotions. So when Christianity works as intended, it can produce good people, but I can count all of them that have ever lived on like one hand. For almost everybody else, it's just a badge they wear. It's like those little those rubber bracelets that advertise that you stand for some progressive cause, like you're for a breast cancer cure, or you're for a cancer cure. Well, that's just the thing you fucking wear on your wrist that says, "Look at me, I spent $1. I'm a good person." That's what Christianity is to almost every Christian alive. It's just a way to look like a good person without actually doing anything different. And they only start to behave in a Christ-like way when you remind them of the fact that they're supposed to be living that way. Then they start to get self-conscious, and then they start to temporarily behave well. They have to be primed. They have to be primed. They have to know people are looking at them, and people are judging Christianity based on their behavior in order to start behaving, the way that the Bible says they're supposed to. Oh shit. What the fuck? How did you get down here? How did you spawn here? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? You saw that, right? The fuck was that? This is a cool, cozy little submarine with these little fucking... I haven't been here in a while. Haven't been here in a long while. I like the big dome window's cool. And I like that map. That's interesting. But what's much cooler than the dome window and cozier is all these little tiny portholes. I should have built a colony with more solid walls just to put little 1x1 portholes in it, because this really feels like a nautical porthole. I wish we had a better view, but whatever. And the reason there's not an airlock is building an airlock in this game is a fucking chore. That is not rewarding because it's much simpler and more logical for the game. You can't have an airlock where water actually properly fills it unless you build this huge elaborate mechanism where the ceiling opens up so the water can fall in, which doesn't really make sense or look the way that it should. It's much more logical and much more visually appealing to just have a moon pool. Because moon pools are real, they exist. Not just in underwater habitats, but there are ships that have a moon pool in the bottom and a pressure section that's cut off from the rest of the ship just so that water doesn't rush in and flood the ship. And that's what they use to deploy and recover divers and diving bells and diving suits and submersibles. There's nothing good down here. There used to be. There used to be like exposed sand that you could mine and make your own glass. There used to be exposed coal and ore. Now there's just gravel. Who thought that this was an improvement? Fire that person. Although it's still really chill to look up and see the surface of the water like it's the sky. I guess that is basically the sky when you're underwater. Well, I'm going to fix this. This is going to look wonky, but it'll work. Watch me fucking fuck with physics. This is SpongeBob physics. Placing a torch underwater and having it burn for any amount of time is SpongeBob physics. You know, where they can throw water balls and they're underwater, but the water is visibly different from the water it's immersed in. And there are human characters, like the Aqua Lad and whatever their fucking names were, but they're not drowning. Like, water only behaves like water when the story requires it to. Respiration 3 also does not provide as much air as I would like. I guess I don't really have any room to complain because I could just use a water-breathing potion. But that's overkill. I kind of want something in between the two. Maybe it would be if you could refill your bubble meter out of using empty bottles. Like if you drink from a bottle underwater, instead of You know what I mean? It would refill some of your bubble meter, but it would fill the bottle with water. So right now, when you try to use a bottle underwater, it does fill with water, but it doesn't. It should refill your bubble meter. The air should go somewhere. That would be a cool feature, I think. Nobody cares what I think. I don't use melons for anything. What? I guess I just have them for completist purposes. Blah. Could there be an underwater luxury facility someplace that we don't know about? Because I feel like all these rich people have giant yachts. And there are luxury submarines now. Where do those luxury submarines go? Like, if I was a rich fucking person, I would build myself an underwater pleasure resort with fucking big titty mermaids. They would be extremely well compensated, and they would have pensions, and they would have health care. Health care as big and generous and supple as their mermaid titties. And free shells. Free shells. Made out of a substance that dissolves in water. Actually, I probably wouldn't. I don't want women enough. I'm 90% sure I'm heterosexual and 10% sure that I'm just some kind of asexual unit. Because I feel attracted to women, but then I start to think about the stuff I could buy with the money that it takes to date. I'm like, okay, do I want fancy clothes? I guess I already have nice clothes. I guess I already have a car that's pretty nice. I got that stuff because it was cool to me, though. When I think about buying shit that I would just need in order to impress women, I think that's not really fiscally responsible. Having had sex a double-digit number of times in my life, which is not impressive by any means, but it's enough to know whether I like sex or not, and I like it okay, but it's not that great. It's great, but it's not great to the point where I would spend a huge chunk of my income just in order to make it happen more frequently. I guess I'm too comfortable just living as basically the same way I did when I was like 10 or 12. All I need to really be happy are awesome video games, and I guess I have weed now. I didn't have weed when I was 12. That's the simple life, man. Simple pleasures. Cheap, affordable pleasures. Which enables you to have more nice things with less money. If you just chop relationships out of your life, suddenly you have a lot more money, seemingly out of nowhere. I think I've had like a dozen dates in the last 10 years, and none of them turned into anything. I had a couple of repeat dates, only from like 2 or 3 of those women. But even at the time, I was thinking, look at how fucking expensive this meal is. I don't even like the food. What am I doing here? This isn't going to be worth it. I don't feel anything. I guess that's the problem. I guess what the lubrication, the salve that's supposed to smooth over all those problems is that you're supposed to fall in love. And if you fall in love, then you're high off your tits, basically, on neurochemicals. And you make all sorts of unwise decisions. And a lot of shit seems worth it to you that otherwise wouldn't seem worth it. Like when you're horny, there's a lot of things that seem worth it and a good idea to you. Like buying a fucking hot, like Lamborghini. Like, oh, I'm going to get so much pussy, blah, blah, blah. And then you jizz and you sober up and you're like, that would be a really poor fiscal decision. I'm fucking boring. How'd I get this way? I'm too sensible. I need to be reckless. Don't I? I'm happy this way. It works out pretty well. What do I really need to change? And why? I guess there's a lot of different ways you can live, and there's nobody who can say objectively that one way is better than another. I do get lonely sometimes, but loneliness is like hunger. Like, you can't ignore it forever, but you can ignore it in short bursts. And it will go away for a while and only come back later. So when I have those kinds of feelings and it's painful, I just ignore it and ignore it and ignore it. And eventually it goes away and it's not a problem. And when it builds up to the point where I have to do something about it, I just go hang out with friends. And it's like once every week or two. More like 2 weeks. Then it depletes my social meter, my social energy, and I feel better. I don't feel lonely. I feel like life is worth living, and I can go back to doing what you're seeing right here. This is most of my time. Well, I've been playing a lot more of that fucking dinosaur game. I have aspirations to do an all melee run. Not just an all melee run, because that would actually be too easy, because of how OP the axe and bat are. But an all fist run. It's doable. And the reason it's doable is because you can leave your backpack out as you're walking. You don't have to stand still to access your backpack, which means if you have a 4-slot backpack, you can have 4 full-size medkits in there. And you can, as you're fighting, as you're punching the raptor and dodging and weaving, you can be grabbing the medkits and applying them to yourself out of a fucking floating backpack. It doesn't matter. It's not logical. What matters is it works. It's not stupid if it works. The only problem with that is that you only get 1 medkit per airdrop. So you have to really, really be good at fighting the raptors in order to replenish medkits faster than you consume them. Because the raptors are the ones that are really going to fuck you up. And you have to completely avoid every other type of dinosaur. Other than the little ones, which you also can't avoid. Those ones will whittle away your health. And you really have to... They can be a problem. But I feel like if you got good enough... Especially if you saved up enough in-game currency for the 8-slot backpack, you could have 8 medkits. He'd be unstoppable. 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 Maybe I'm going to get to the point where I think my revenue keeps increasing. But I'm going to get to the point where it's like in Minecraft. It's like, what do I do with it? I don't really care that I'm alive. I already have everything I want. Maybe that's why rich people buy outrageous, stupid shit. Because they have all this money and they need to find a use for it. They need to justify all the horrible things that they did and how much of their life they sacrificed to get that rich. Only to discover that it's not actually that expensive to live a fulfilled life. Like for me, happiness is pretty simple. It's VR, weed, and writing. I love to write. Writing is fucking fun. Like if you write for yourself, not only does it turn out better, but it's fun. It's like a one-person D&D, basically. I don't want the experience to be social. I don't want anything to be social. It's one-person it's like designing a roller coaster as you ride it and deciding which track piece goes in front of you one at a time. Like what's going to happen now? It's up to you. You create the world and you create characters and you decide how they interact. Although if they're well-formed characters and their personalities are well-defined, then you'll know it because there will only be one way for them to interact in a way that's totally consistent with how people with those 2 personalities would actually interact in real life. So it becomes somewhat deterministic, but that's a sign of a good story, is that it unfolds naturally as a consequence of the different personalities interacting. So I love to write. If I can just maybe like a cabin or like a tiny home. I don't want to rent the rest of my life because I'm throwing away a lot of money by doing that. It's cheaper to get a mortgage actually in a lot of places. You can get a $400 a month mortgage. It's not on a good house. It's like a single story. It's not a trailer or a mobile home. It's a legit house, but it's not a nice one. But that's boring. I don't want to move into a suburb. I don't want to live that life. I want to live a life that's remarkable, that people will talk about after I'm dead and write about. I want to build a geodesic dome or a monolithic concrete dome. Domes are cool. Or a sphere. No, not a sphere. That's stupid. It would a windstorm would cause it to roll away. Maybe like a giant pyramid or a cube. Something like that. I want everything I do like should have some element of it that's at least somewhat interesting and remarkable. Like I didn't just go out and get a gas-powered car. It wasn't even about the environment for me. I care like 10% about the environment. For me, it's more about efficiency and cool technology, and I wanted a cool, technologically interesting car. That wasn't even just electric either, but that had the option of accepting either electricity or fuel and running exclusively on that if I wanted it to. That's just more balanced and flexible, which is how I feel like I have to be now. Even if it doesn't make me happy, often I have to do that to my own detriment, and it costs me stuff that I want. Because sometimes I'm the wrong one. Sometimes I'm the one who is the wrong stupid idiot, and I realize I have to lose. I have to be punished, and this other person has to win. And I think even when other people realize that, they still side with themselves, because the concept of self is a powerful thing, and they're on their own side no matter what. I'm not on my own side no matter what. If I'm wrong and I realize it, then I turn against myself. And that's a good way to lose against somebody who's an egotist and sides with himself no matter what, but at the same time I don't want to win if the only way to win is to become somebody like that. I have a very clear idea in my head of who I want to be. I want to be reasonable, and I want to not be scary to anybody. I know I read horror, so you'd think I'd be excited and about being, but I don't want to. I don't actually want anybody to ever feel threatened by me, and I don't want to scare children or animals. I don't want to be a scary guy. Like, when you were a little kid and you look out the window when driving through town, and there would be some scary guy with like a trench coat and like sunglasses, and it's like, and you would you'd lock the door and snuggle up and feel a little bit scared. I don't want to be. Then again, maybe I was being unfair. Maybe that guy was just a normal dude, and it was just because I felt small and vulnerable that I projected my fears onto him and assumed that he was somebody sinister. It's easy to do that, and it feels self-justifying. If you feel like you're the little guy, like the underdog, then you feel justified in being especially cautious and viewing anybody who scares you as sketchy. The fact that they scare you just because you're scared of everybody, like a chihuahua, is just constantly shivering because it realizes that it's prey to every other animal, never enters your mind. You just feel, at least I assume people feel that way, that they're on their own side. They're the hero of their own story. So if they feel scared by somebody, they never think, maybe I'm just a crazy asshole who's too scared of people and is making it into their problem when it's my problem. They think, oh, that person's scary. They're trying to be scary. They're trying to be upsetting to me. I want them to go away and stop existing. I think this is the issue with how women view men. They feel justified in viewing men as these movie monsters because they feel as if they're just defending themselves, and they always feel insecure. That's the impression I get. I'm the last person on earth who should assume that they understand women. I'm sure that I don't. But it seems like because they feel small and vulnerable, they feel like it's self-justifying to discriminate and to err on the side of caution even where it's hurtful. It must feel like that's just something they're entitled to do, that everybody should just understand and accept it. That would make sense of a lot of gender politics. If it, you know, I've never heard any woman actually say that outright though, so I don't know how warm or cold I am. This is difficult. I shouldn't form opinions like that. What I really don't understand are dudes who get really fucking angry at women, because I understand not understanding the opposite. I don't even understand most men who are not autistic. Like, I'm as different psychologically from a man who's neurotypical as I am from a neurotypical woman. Whereas I'm extremely psychologically similar to an autistic woman or man, because they're kind of general. When you're like this mentally, you're just kind of a minimalist human, simplified. I don't want to say objective. That doesn't mean that I'm objective about everything in my opinions. I just mean that a pipe is a pipe, and a rose is a rose, and a glass of water is a glass of water, and it's not half empty or half full. It's just 50% is water and 50% air, stuff like that. So, like, I intuitively understand other people who have this condition, in the same way they understand me. We kind of have the synchronicity going on. People who have this condition in a mild form can often cooperate extremely well, which is why you see a lot of programmers who are on the spectrum seeking out other programmers on the spectrum to work with, because that's an ideal situation. That's where I would be happy to be with other people and to collaborate. If I could just live in a game development house with other people who are on the spectrum, so much shit would get done. We wouldn't talk to each other, except where absolutely necessary. We wouldn't. A lot of Soylent would be consumed. Let's just put it that way. And it's comfortable to live that way. It sounds dreary and it sounds dreadful to just live in a purely utilitarian way where everything just is what it is and shit gets done and everything is done for the sake of utility and efficiency. But it's really liberating too. It feels lightweight. It feels compact. It feels clean. Whereas the reality of life with regular human beings is much messier and more burdensome, and there's all this other shit you have to keep track of. Like, how are they going to interpret this because of their past and their emotional state right now, and how are they going to blah, blah, blah. It's not better to be this way, it's just easier. It's easier if... Then again, that's just the same as saying it's easier to work with people who are psychologically similar to you, which is true no matter what you're like. So I guess that's a more general principle than I thought of originally. That is nirvana, when you are with people who are totally on the same wavelength as you, and cooperation is effortless, drama does not occur, everybody just becomes a cog in a larger machine, and not in a bad way, in a good way, in a way where you feel like you belong and you fit and your skills are being utilized to their maximum potential, and your skills complement everybody else's skills and their skills complement your skills. That's one of the best feelings, man. That's one of the best feelings. It's hard to get though. Especially if you're working with people who think microaggressions are a thing, rather than just oversensitivity. Like, tell me when you see a man of any race identify something as a microaggression, and I'll eat my own face. There will never be any autistic person, for example, who complains about a microaggression, because they probably won't notice it. They won't process it that way. They're not looking to be offended. They're not looking to score points. They're not looking to control somebody else's behavior with shame. They're just looking to get the job done. Whatever the job is, it's self-explanatory that it's necessary to complete the job, because otherwise the job doesn't get completed. That's simple. That's the essence of it. How do I encapsulate? How do I describe it? Where life is just simple and everything is straightforward. Feels good, man. Maybe that's what I need to pursue. Maybe what I need is not necessarily hot babes or like more. I don't even want more money at this point. I have enough to live and to write. I know writing makes me happy. I don't think a relationship would make me happy. Like when I think about a relationship, I just, besides the money factor, I just think about all the, like the fact that I only have enough social energy to meet with my friends like once a week at most now. So how the fuck would I live with another person full time? That would be a nightmare. So maybe I just need to figure out what does make me happy and pursue that and use money to get myself closer to that. I think what would make me happy besides writing is collaboration with a lot of other people who think the way I do on some project and living alongside them but not having to interact with them except when necessary for the project and working as together as components in a larger organism, in a well-oiled machine where everything just, it's like one of those animated GIFs where you have the swinging pendulums and you have this rotating piece where they just perfectly miss it every time, and then you have the all those different things happening where it would be really easy for something to fuck up and go wrong, but it never does. And it's viscerally satisfying, and it's hard to explain why. But it's like that, when everything just works. Everything works, everything goes smoothly, shit gets done, the outcome is amazing. That, I feel certain, would make me happy, and I would spend any amount of money on that. So maybe I need a company. Maybe I need to start a company and just hire spurgs. Hire all the fucking spurgs that I can get my hands on who specialize in whatever it is that I want to make. Then again, isn't that discriminatory? Would it be considered discrimination or would it be considered affirmative action? Would it be tolerated because, you know, it's technically a disability? God, imagine how that place would smell, though. It's true. I don't like saying it, but it's true. I avoid that mainly by avoiding situations with large temperature changes and avoiding too much heat so I don't sweat. Most BO seems to come from sweat. And also having doubles of all or triples of the same article of clothing so I can always have the same thing in the wash so I don't have to choose. If I am dead set that I want to wear a particular thing on a certain day. How come there's no machine that's a washer and a dryer in a single unit? I wonder what makes that difficult to design. That would make life really easy. I've been looking at shit to make life easier because honestly, even simple things overwhelm me. And one of them is AmaBrush. I'm not plugging it. I don't own any stock, but it's this thing that you stick in your mouth and it's like a retainer. But it's the entire thing is like an electric toothbrush, but that brushes every tooth at the same time. So you don't even need to do anything. You just stick it in your mouth, push a button, and it does its thing. And then 30 seconds later, you take it out, and you're done. You just rinse it out, and that's you've brushed your teeth. That's my least favorite part of the day, just because it takes a long time. I like showering. I like bathing, because it's pleasurable. Brushing your teeth is not pleasurable. It tastes bad, and it takes forever. I want that machine from the Jetsons where you just walk into one end of it and it dresses you and it bathes you and does everything. The closest thing I can think of is, you know, when you go to a water park or a theme park ride that has that gets you wet, and there's this booth you can put a quarter into when you come out of the ride, and it has these like 6 high-speed hot air super blow dryer air jets that dries you off in like a minute. If I could have that privately as a private owner and just own that for my own use and build it into the shower, in fact, so that you don't even have to get out of the shower. You just finish showering and you push a button and it dries you and then you step out. How fucking tight would that be? The answer is super fucking tight. I don't know what I want to do in the game now. This was really productive though. This is like self-therapy. I need to get myself in a situation, maybe with a company, maybe traditional employment, although that has never worked out for me in the past. Because I'm weird. Where I'm working together with a bunch of other people who are also on the spectrum and have similar interests and are perfectly aligned in our obsession with whatever it is that the company is designed to make. Something to do with writing, something that requires writing. Otherwise, what would I do? I mean, I can model okay in Maya, but nowhere close to professional level. I can do Photoshop, but again, not very well. Like, I can make textures and I can make them tile, but I don't really have a good sense of how to make them. Because then you also have to make your own specular map, and you have to have a sense of in your head of how it's going to look in the game engine before. And it's hard to visualize that stuff for me. I kind of have to trial and error it. What are prismarine crystals even good for? Huh. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. And get rid of this. Is happiness even the most important thing, though? Is the other thing. Everybody wants to be happy all the time. But isn't that also kind of an empty, pointless goal? Because if your only goal is to be happy, then go become a heroin addict. You'll die much faster, but you'll have more happiness in total than you probably would have otherwise. And when people say, no, that's the wrong way, well, why is it wrong? It feels wrong to you, but can you say for sure that, like having a wire put into your brain, so if you push a button, it activates the pleasure center of your brain, you just never do anything with your life except push that button? It looks sad and weird and wrong from the outside, but from the inside, you're probably having a really good time. Who's to say that that's the wrong way to be happy? I think the answer to that is that happiness is not the ultimate goal of life, or at least it doesn't have to be. What you don't have, even if you have happiness in a situation where you're on some drug or pushing a button that activates the pleasure center, is you don't have meaning. You have happiness, but not meaning. I think the ideal is to have both. I think is to be happy because you have meaning in your life. But if you can't have both, if you can't be happy, if you can't have both of those things, I would choose meaning over happiness. Because I don't just want empty happiness. That doesn't feel meaningful, and I can't enjoy the happiness if it doesn't feel meaningful. And there have been times when I was sad, but I was sad about something meaningful, and there was something nourishing about it. There was depth to the sadness, and it had instructive qualities where I came away with these profound ideas that I later put into the heart of some really good short stories and novellas. So I want to work productively with a bunch of people similar to myself. I want meaning. I guess I want a Tesla. That's kind of shallow, but I do. I don't even necessarily want the best one. Like the Model S has the longest range, but I don't like the styling. It doesn't. It's a beautiful car, but I prefer sedans, and the S has this hard to describe. It's just like a blob. I like the Model 3 a lot on the outside. The inside is abysmal. The interior of the Model 3 is just it's terrible, which is a shame because the outside is exactly what I want a car to look like. If we're talking about crazy fantasies, I would like an underwater colony where I could invite different people from around the world to come and talk to me and apply whatever art that they do, like painting or writing, or just brilliant people, just to be around them in a remarkable place and to give them a space to get away from the world and to do their thing. Like Rapture, except not with a bunch of insufferable Randians. And not that deep. Most of the cool stuff to see in the ocean is in the shallow layers. Believe you me, I have given a lot of thought, more than is reasonable, to my fantasy underwater colony. And it would probably be no more than 200 feet, 250 feet deep, because you only have to build 200 feet down to escape storm influence. And there's still plenty of light at that depth. You couldn't have corals unless you did artificial cultivation, I think. You'd need, like, lights, banks of lights, to keep the corals alive, and maybe some other stuff. I think the shallowest I would build is 50 feet. At 50 feet, you can do ambient pressure using normal atmospheric air, which is the big advantage of it. But at the same time, you're within range of storm currents, so you have to greatly overballast the structure. Otherwise, it can get dragged along the seafloor, being carried with currents, which is a bad thing. Which is a bad thing when you live in a fairly fragile cocoon. I don't even give a shit about the Nether base anymore. What else do I even need there? I've built almost everything there is to build. I guess I could fucking... Once I have more cows, I can get leather and then build the enchanting, like the bookcases, and then put... If I have 1 diamond, so I think that's all I need. That's especially rare to build the enchanting table itself. So I don't have an enchanting station. I don't have any brewing stations either in the Nether, which is strange. You'd think I would. That's where blaze rods come from. There's still stuff to do. There's a couple videos left in this series, I think. But it was nice to just stick around in the underwater colony and to explore the seafloor a little bit. I haven't done that much. Not that there's anything to see. We all know whose fault that is. Alright. I'm going to hop through to the Nether, and then probably that's going to be it for this video. Bye, Squiddos! I never liked you. Fuck off! I'm happy with my current religion. I don't want to hear about... No! I said fuck off! I don't want to buy your fucking vacuum cleaners. Or whatever the fuck it is. It's always something. Pig orgy. It's a porgy. It's a porgy. Porgy in the house. Oh, did I ever talk about the new It? The new It is fucking radical. They did such a good job. And I'm not the biggest fan of the source material. That was a long book with a whole bunch of irrelevant, stupid shit that thankfully was not in the movie, like the turtle god. And everybody talks about the sewer orgy, but okay, yeah, I'm glad they left that out, but that isn't even the biggest irrelevant, stupid thing that was in the book. I guess better more than less, but that's not always the case. There is such a thing as so much that it damages the core of good ideas that's there. My writing has often been described as very streamlined and efficient, which they say it in a positive sense, but maybe I could actually stand to pat it out a little bit. I think I'm already very descriptive. I think it would hurt my writing to be more descriptive already than I already am. God, would you fuck? I want defenses. What defenses can I build? I don't want to build landmines because that will just blow up fucking important shit. Look at those pigs. It feels like it's taking longer to make more pigs than it is to make cows for some reason, even though they breed at the same rate. When that thing is packed with pigs. Although pig farming is really a fucking messy job because they shit so much. If you become a pig farmer, just get ready to smell like shit the rest of your life. This was not a very funny episode. I apologize for that. You know, it is funny, though. Clown AIDS. I don't have to justify that. I can't kill any of these. I want to. I want to grill some fucking pork, but there's not enough of them yet. And I want to wait for these ones to grow up. This feels agonizingly slow, whereas breeding the cows seems to have gone very, very unexpectedly fast. Am I imagining things? I don't think so. I'm gonna go make more cows and then call it quits. This is kind of a ways away, too. It's not big enough that I need any sort of transport system. Although that would be cool to have a glass... I probably will eventually build a glass-covered... Maybe just turn that into a rail system. That's not as cool, though. I want a glass-covered rail system going over lava. Cow orgy, cow orgy. Berber, yeah. Suck these udders. That's everybody, isn't it? Or is the one, there's just nobody for them to... Nope, they all got to have sex. Everybody's happy. That's the sign of a good party. Everybody got laid. I have so many fucking cows. I'm the richest man in Afghanistan now. Probably there's a rap video in like Pashtun where some dude in a turban with like a big wooden walking stick raps about how many cows he has out in the desert. The most motherfucking cows you ever will see. I'm the #1 Afghani. Like no gold chains, no Escalade. Just cows and maybe some goats. No, he's too fucking upmarket for goats. Goats are for lesser rappers. Stay away from my cows! I know about your plans. I know about your schemes. I've read your fucking live journal. Live journal hasn't been a thing for many years, has it? I keep saying things that date me. That's the only way I'll get dated. Oh, but silent tears. That's looking good, though. That's what I like to see. There's a lot of cultivation of livestock inside of a nice bubble in an environment that fucking sucks and is trying to kill me. But they can't kill me, and I'm living the good life. I'm living the good life, and you can't fucking stop me. You big white scrotum. Maybe he's an udder. Look at him. Look at how he's shaped. He looks like a... He's a cow udder. He's the ghost of a cow udder that got chopped off. With all of his creepy little danglies. Can you imagine being touched by those danglies? Like, if you were just walking along the Nether and the ghast didn't even attack you because it was like the one perverted ghast who just hovered over you and dangled his little danglies down all over your body. And you try to get away, but he can fly faster than you can walk. So it's like that scene in Up where they're walking and pulling the flying house behind them. But instead it's being followed by a pervert ghast. Just drooping his danglies on you. Don't masturbate to that. You have to promise me. I don't want to be responsible for such a thing. Anyways, that's all for this time. I'm going to end it in the Chickentopia. And implore you to watch more of my videos. Click like and subscribe. I'm up to 506. I have 6 new subscribers since I started making videos seriously. That's progress. I'll be at 10,000 in no time. He said, still quietly weeping. But that's all. Stay cozy. Unless for some reason you don't want to be cozy, and then I guess do whatever the fuck you want. There's America. There's America. America, America, America. It's America! America!